Here's $500. Will you pretend to be my date for a day? Asked the lonely CEO to the girl at the cafe. The cafe was quiet, tucked between a flower shop and a dry cleaner on a narrow street in Brooklyn. Outside, the early spring air was cool and restless. Inside, the scent of cinnamon and espresso mingled with soft acoustic music, but none of it seemed to reach the man sitting alone at the corner table. Lucas Thorne, 33, CEO of Thorne and Maddox Holdings, stared at his phone screen as if it had personally offended him. The text thread from his family group chat was lit up in bright blue bubbles, each message more insistent than the last. Grandma's turning 75. You better not come alone this year. Mom already picked someone for you to meet. Super polished, Stanford MBA. You'll love her. Lucas. Seriously. Bring a date. Or else. He let out a slow breath, jaw tight. His family had long decided that his success in the boardroom must be balanced with success in a relationship. As if a warm body beside him at family dinners would undo everything broken inside him. His fingers hovered over a reply. He deleted the half-typed sentence, then he looked up. At the far end of the cafe, the door chimed open. A gust of wind followed an elderly woman inside, small and fragile, gripping the arm of a young woman who moved with careful steadiness. Easy now, Mrs. Delaney, the young woman said gently, her voice like light. She guided the older woman to a chair near the window, brushing raindrops from her cardigan before tucking a blanket around her knees. Lucas watched, unmoving. The girl, blonde hair tied in a loose ponytail, no makeup, apron still smudged from the morning rush, smiled at the woman, then placed a cup of chamomile tea in front of her with both hands. Her smile was not professional. It was sincere. And for a moment, just a moment, Lucas forgot the text messages. She turned toward the counter, catching his gaze for half a second. He looked away quickly, schooling his face back into neutrality. But the idea was already forming, uninvited, unfiltered, and entirely irrational. He stood, crossed the room. She was punching something into the register when she noticed him. Up close, she looked younger than he expected, maybe 28. Her name tag read, Isla. Can I help you? She asked. Lucas reached into his wallet and pulled out 5 crisp $100 bills. He placed them on the counter, then looked directly into her eyes. I need someone to pretend to be my girlfriend. For one day, tomorrow, it is my grandmother's birthday. I will pick you up, introduce you to my family, and bring you home. That is all. Isla blinked. Twice. She looked at the money, then back at him. I am sorry, what? I will pay you, 500, for one day, one dinner, nothing else. Is this a prank? Lucas shook his head. No cameras, no joke. I just need someone to stand beside me and smile for a few hours. She studied him carefully. You do not even know me. That is kind of the point. There was no charm in his voice, no wink, no smirk, just a tired certainty, like someone who had run out of better ideas. She crossed her arms. And what makes you think I would say yes? He held her gaze, and for the first time, something softened slightly in his expression. Because you just helped a stranger, like she was your own family, and because you smiled, like you meant it. Isla hesitated. The practical part of her screamed no. But there was something else, a quiet curiosity. This man looked like he lived in a glass tower with no time for kindness, yet here he was, offering $500 for borrowed affection at a birthday party. And his eyes, though guarded, held no trace of arrogance. Just exhaustion. All right, she said slowly, but only for the evening. And you have to call me Isla, not some fake name. Lucas nodded. Deal. She reached for the bills, but he held them back. After, he said, not before. She nodded. And just like that, 2 strangers became co-stars in a role neither of them had prepared for. Tomorrow, they would play pretend, just for one day. What could possibly go wrong? The next afternoon, A sleek black town car pulled up in front of Isla's small apartment building. Isla stepped outside, coat clutched around her as she approached the open passenger door, and froze. Inside the back seat, beside her, lay 2 garment bags with designer tags, neatly hung. A slim envelope with her name on it rested between them. She opened it. "For tonight. Wear whichever makes you feel most confident. L." Isla let out a short breath and smiled to herself. She stepped into the car and zipped open both bags. The first held a glittering navy dress, elegant and structured. The second, a flowing off-white number, minimal and understated, soft fabric that seemed made for a summer breeze. When Lucas stepped into the car moments later, dressed in a sharp charcoal suit, he noticed instantly that she had chosen neither. Instead, Isla wore a simple sleeveless dress of pale sage green, the kind you might find in a vintage boutique, paired with modest heels and a soft bun at the nape of her neck. "I hope that's not a problem," she said, noticing his look. He shook his head. "No, you look," he trailed off. She raised a brow. "Like someone who did not take your money?" He let out a small huff of amusement. "Exactly." They pulled away from the curb, the city blurring past the windows as the silence settled between them. But it was not awkward. "So," Isla said after a while, "what is my name tonight?" Lucas glanced at her. "What do you mean?" "You know, am I supposed to be Clara, the art gallery owner from Milan? Or maybe Juliet, your college sweetheart?" He blinked. "I hadn't thought that far." "Well, think about this. Why not just introduce me as Isla?" He hesitated. "Trust me," she said, her voice soft but firm. "I am better at being me than anyone else." He nodded slowly. "Okay, Isla it is." They drove a bit longer, the streets giving way to wider roads as they headed into the outskirts where the estate homes began. Lucas adjusted his cufflinks, avoiding her eyes. "You are really going through all this trouble," she said gently. "Why not just bring someone you actually care about?" He did not answer right away. Isla did not press. Finally, he said, "Because I did that once. It did not end well. My family remembers. So now, I keep things simple." She nodded, accepting that. "What about you?" he asked. She looked surprised. "You said last night you were working to make ends meet. What did you do before?" "I was in nursing school," Isla said. "Top of my class, full scholarship." "What happened?" "My grandmother. She got sick. Early onset dementia. I had to leave school to take care of her full time. She passed last year." Lucas turned his head slightly, watching her from the corner of his eye. "I'm sorry." Isla gave a small smile. "It is life, but I am okay." He found himself studying her, not just the words she said, but the way she said them. No bitterness, no self-pity, just quiet resilience. "You are not what I expected," he said. She tilted her head. "Is that good or bad?" "I am not sure yet." She laughed. "Fair enough." As the car turned onto a private driveway, the Thorne estate came into view, white stone, sprawling gardens, soft lights glowing from within. The kind of place Isla had only ever seen in movies. She took a breath. Lucas glanced at her. "You do not have to go through with this." She looked up at him, her eyes steady. "Hey, it is just one evening, and I did promise I'd try to make your grandmother smile." He stared at her a beat too long. Then, without a word, he stepped out and opened the door for her. She stepped into the evening light, the sounds of music and chatter floating from the open veranda. The night had begun, and Lucas, for the first time in a long time, was not entirely sure he was in control. The Thorne estate was already alive with music and laughter when Lucas and Isla stepped through the grand arched entrance. The foyer opened into a lavishly decorated hall, strung with warm lights and garlands of fresh lilies. Guests mingled, holding crystal glasses, dressed in tailored suits and cocktail gowns. Isla walked beside Lucas, her steps calm and composed, her eyes quietly absorbing the luxury around her. She clutched her small clutch tightly, but her face showed no fear. Just quiet grace. Smile, Lucas murmured, offering his arm. This is the easy part. She smirked. That's what you think. Across the room, a woman stood near the fireplace, her silver-gray hair pinned into an elegant twist, posture upright and commanding despite her age. Martha Thorne, Lucas's grandmother. Her sharp eyes found Lucas instantly, and then shifted to Isla. As they approached, Martha's gaze swept over the pair. Isla extended her hand. Happy birthday, Mrs. Thorne. I'm Isla. There was a pause, just a beat too long, before Martha reached out and took her hand with surprising warmth. Thank you, dear. And please, call me Martha. Their eyes locked for a moment, and Isla knew, somehow, that the older woman had seen right through the act. But Martha just smiled. Behind them, a voice cut through the pleasantries. Lucas. A tall, well-dressed woman approached. Her tone was cool, her expression unreadable. Mother, Lucas said, straightening. Sylvia Thorne. Her eyes moved to Isla. So, this is the young woman you've been keeping from us. Isla smiled politely. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Thorne. Sylvia gave a tight smile. And what is it you do, Isla? I'm working at a cafe right now, Isla said, her voice even. But I studied nursing before that. Sylvia arched a brow. Interesting. That's quite a pivot. Lucas stiffened, but Isla only nodded, unfazed. Life has its detours. Sylvia offered nothing more, turning back to the other guests. Lucas looked like he might say something, but Isla gently touched his arm. It's okay, she whispered. Let's just enjoy the party. Hours passed in a blur of introductions, laughter, and clinking glasses. Isla moved through the crowd with ease, talking to guests, smiling at children, listening intently to Martha's stories at the table. She did not pretend to belong. She simply did. Lucas watched her from a distance, his guarded exterior still intact, but inside, something in him was shifting. He caught himself smiling, just once, when Isla leaned down to whisper something into Martha's ear, and the older woman laughed aloud, eyes crinkling with genuine joy. Then, it happened. A child, no more than 6, darted through the crowd, bumping into a catering staff member, carrying a tray of tea. The tray wobbled. A large pot of hot water tipped dangerously forward, headed straight for the little girl. Before anyone else could react, Isla was already there. She stepped forward, catching the tray at the edge and using her body to shield the child. Most of the scalding water splashed harmlessly onto the carpet, but a small amount hit the girl's leg. Isla knelt quickly, speaking softly to calm the crying child. She grabbed a linen napkin, dipped it in a cold water pitcher from a nearby table, and gently pressed it against the girl's skin. It's okay, sweetheart. Just a little sting, she whispered. The room had gone silent. Martha stood slowly, eyes locked on Isla. Lucas pushed through the crowd, his heart in his throat. Is she all right? He asked. Isla looked up at him, her eyes calm. She's fine. No serious burn, but she'll need some ice and maybe a bandage. The girl's parents rushed in, thanking Isla profusely. She simply smiled, brushing a strand of blonde hair from her face. When she stood, her dress slightly damp, Martha walked toward her. Without a word, she took Isla's hand and squeezed it. Her voice was quiet but clear. That was quick thinking. And brave. Isla's smile faltered, just a bit. Thank you, she said. The party resumed, but the energy had shifted. Guests now looked at Isla with something new, respect. Lucas stood back, watching Isla from across the room. She was laughing with a child again, crouched low, her hair falling loose around her face. He could not look away. He had brought her here to play a role, a part. But Isla was not acting, and Lucas was beginning to understand. That was what made her unforgettable. The party had wound down. Crystal glasses emptied. Conversation thinned. Isla stood near the doorway, gathering her clutch and shawl, ready to leave. Lucas lingered by his grandmother's side, watching her quietly, trying to summon the courage to say something more. Martha Thorne stood up and guided Lucas by his elbow toward a quiet room off the main hall. The door shut softly behind them. The light inside was dim, casting long shadows against the paneled wood. "Lucas," Martha began, her voice stronger than she looked. "Tell me honestly, do you like her?" He swallowed. His heart pounded. It is complicated, Grandma." He could not meet her gaze. She nodded slowly. "I saw how she acted tonight. You looked at her differently. Don't lie to me." Lucas inhaled. "She is kind, brave." He paused. "But I don't know if that's enough." Martha's silence stretched. Then she said, "Sometimes the kindest hearts are what matters most. I see in her something real you haven't let yourself want." He wanted to argue, but he had nothing. When he left the room, Martha's eyes held a small, knowing sadness. Out in the hall, the music and chatter had faded. Isla was gone. He stepped into the foyer. At that moment, Isla waited at the entrance hall. Lucas approached. Before he could speak, she held out a small envelope. Inside, 5 crisp $100 bills. "I'm returning your money," she said softly. Her voice trembled just a bit. "I truly enjoyed playing your girlfriend, but I won't sell my emotions." Lucas reached for the money, but she drew it back. "Please," she continued, "I did this because you asked. I wanted to make someone you love smile, but if this was just a role, I cannot stay as that." Her eyes glistened. "I hope you understand." Lucas didn't move. The hall felt immense and cold. Guests passed by, unaware. A coat-room attendant folded jackets nearby. Isla turned to leave. Lucas opened his mouth, but the words died. He watched her walk across the lobby, through the doors, into the night. He remained inside. Rain pelted the windows. Through the glass doors, he saw her, walking in the rain, with the little girl she'd helped. Isla held her hand, shielding her with an umbrella. Lucas's chest tightened. He wanted to run to her, say she was welcome, say he was sorry, ask her to stay, not as a role, but as something real. But he could not. Rain blurred the night, and Isla and the girl passed like shadows. Light caught their outlines, then vanished. Lucas exhaled. He sagged against the doorframe. The envelope in his pocket felt heavier than gold. His thoughts raced. He had asked for a favor. She had given more. She had shown him what real kindness felt like. He turned, walked back into the hall. Soft music floated again. He passed chandeliers, empty tables, smiling guests. Lucas stopped before Martha's empty chair. He placed his hand on the carved wood, bowed his head. Inside, something broke open, tender, painful, reluctant. He would chase her, ask for another chance, strip away pretense. Because he had begun to care. More than he thought he would. Tonight, the role ended. But the story had just begun. The night after Isla left, Lucas lay awake in his darkened bedroom, staring at the ceiling. Rain tapped the windows, and every memory of her, from the way she steadied that old woman in the cafe, to the way she refused his money, haunted him. He could not sleep. Before dawn, he pulled out his phone and messaged his assistant, "Find me everything on Isla Bennett." By morning, his assistant delivered files, transcripts, addresses, news clippings. Lucas sat at his desk for hours, studying the life of the woman he had asked to pretend to be his date. He discovered Isla had once been a medical student, awarded a full scholarship. She had excelled academically, volunteered at clinics in underserved areas, seemed destined for greatness. Then, her grandmother's illness, progressive dementia, forced her to give up her studies and devote herself to caregiving. After her grandmother passed, Isla took on odd jobs: server, nanny, caregiver, anything to support herself. Through it all, she had remained generous. Reports showed small donations to clinics, quiet acts of kindness in her neighborhood. Lucas closed the folder, heart heavy. Her pride, her sacrifice, her spirit, all of it spoke louder than his money. He went to the cafe where he first met her, stepping into the same warm lights, cinnamon scent drifting in the air. But behind the counter, a replacement stood. The manager told Lucas quietly, "Isla resigned yesterday." He did not offer more. Lucas dropped a bill into the tip jar and left, the emptiness clinging to him. Later that afternoon, Martha fell ill with a mild fever. Lucas canceled all meetings and stayed by her side. He brought her tea, blankets, and hot soup. As he glanced around her room, he saw on her nightstand a small cup of ginger tea and a neatly folded scarf, not items he brought. His fingers trembled. Martha looked up weakly. "Lucas, dear," she croaked, "someone left these last night. I don't know who." Lucas's heart thudded. He rushed downstairs and searched the estate grounds, but she was nowhere. He asked the staff. They said no one came. He realized Isla must have sent them in secret. She was watching, caring. Unable to resist, Lucas began asking around in the medical community, where Isla once studied. He visited the hospital where she had interned, meeting nurses who remembered her as bright, compassionate, always staying late to help patients. One nurse handed him a schedule with Isla's initials, marking where she volunteered that week. Lucas followed the address to a modest elder care center on the outskirts of the city. He parked his car a street away and walked the sidewalk, heart pounding, as twilight descended. Through the windows, he saw her. Isla moving slowly through the hallways, carrying a tray of warm tea, pausing to help an elderly man adjust his pillow, offering a gentle word to a trembling woman. Her golden hair caught the soft lamplight. She was not wearing makeup. Her dress was simple, but she glowed with purpose. He watched her from the shadows, unseen. At one point, Isla paused beside a frail old woman sitting near a courtyard window. She sat beside her, took the woman's hand, and asked quietly, "Would you like some more tea? A blanket?" The woman nodded tearfully. Isla nodded and stood, retrieved a blanket from a nearby cabinet, and draped it over the woman's shoulders. She did not ask for thanks. She only stayed a moment longer, watching the woman's face soften. Lucas's chest tightened. He swallowed hard. He thought of the night at the birthday party, how she had saved that girl from scalding water. He thought of her quiet smile when introduced to Martha. He thought of the money she refused, the acts she performed when no one watched. This was not a performance. This was her. Lucas stepped back into darkness, tears in his eyes. He realized he had brought her into his life for a night, but what he wanted now was to let her stay, if she would. He whispered to himself, "I see you, Isla, more than the part you played, the person you are." Lucas paced in front of his building late one evening, coat collar turned up against the chill. He had cleared his calendar. He had rehearsed his words. He would see her again, Isla. Not for a debt. Not for a favor. He wanted to understand her. He called the restaurant they had glimpsed earlier, a small bistro Isla had pointed out months ago while working shifts. He asked for a reservation for 2 at 8. When Isla answered the phone, her voice quiet and cautious, Lucas felt his heart thump. He told her it was just dinner. No pretense, no role, only conversation. After a long pause, Isla agreed. When Lucas arrived, he found Isla already seated, in a soft cream blouse that caught the dim light just so. She stood to greet him, reserved in grace. He pulled out her chair. He spoke first. "Thank you for coming." She gave a tight smile. "I'm here. That's something." Lucas seated. He placed his napkin on his lap, a gesture hesitating between formality and comfort. They started with soup, small talk about the city's weather, the neighborhood, the jazz, playing low behind them. Lucas watched her ease into each bite, the way she held her spoon with gentleness. He realized how little he knew beyond her act that night. He cleared his throat. "Can I tell you something?" She placed her napkin on the table. "Please." He swallowed. "Years ago, I loved someone once. We thought we were enough for each other. She believed I couldn't love deeply, that I saw life through spreadsheets and deals, never through heart. She left. She said, 'You are rich, but you're empty inside.' Since then, I've worn my control like armor." Isla's fingers curled around her wine glass. "I'm sorry." He shook his head. "I'm telling you this not for sympathy, but so you know, my heart closed down. I ask you tonight not to fix me. I just want you to see me. The man behind the mask." She looked away, her voice soft, measured. "I'm grateful for your honesty, but I need to tell you something too." She paused. "I once loved someone who had everything, wealth, status, admiration, but he took me for granted. He used me when convenient. I learned that to survive, I must guard my heart. I never wanted to be someone's project." Lucas nodded, eyes moist. "I understand." He touched his chest. "I want to care for you, Isla, not rescue you." They lingered through main courses. She talked about comforting patients, small victories, the way a child's thank you could heal more than medicine. He listened, fully, leaning forward, and she felt that. When the meal ended, they walked side by side down the lantern-lit street toward her modest apartment. Rain had started, misting the sidewalks. Lucas held the umbrella over both. Outside her door, they hesitated. He looked at her. No flourish, no grand gestures. He said, voice low and earnest, "Last time, you pretended to be my girlfriend. Tonight, I hope to be your friend. Truly." Isla's eyes shimmered. She nodded. She did not step into the doorway. She did not lean in. She held his gaze. And in that moment they stood in silence, neither needing more, neither retreating. A bridge built with soft words and trembling hope. She offered a small smile. "Thank you, Lucas. I would like that." They parted then, gentle and new. Their connection had begun, not with fireworks, but with honesty. The glow from the birthday weekend had faded, but the ripples remained. Despite Martha's clear fondness for Isla, the rest of the family wasn't as warm. Whispers stirred in the halls, skeptical, dismissive. Then came the blow. An anonymous relative, jealous or spiteful, shared a blog post accusing Isla of being a professional date for hire. It twisted the story of the cafe meeting and included a blurred photo of her in uniform. The post spread quickly. Screenshots buzzed in inboxes. Board members exchanged glances. By noon, Lucas had received it 5 times. Isla saw it too, an anonymous forward. She sat on her bed, phone in hand. Her finger hovered over the delete button, then lowered. The words stung. But the exposure stung more. She had always carried herself with quiet dignity. This felt like a public stripping of that. That evening, Isla called Lucas. "I can't be the reason your family falls apart," she said, voice calm but heavy. Lucas was silent. "I didn't sign up for this," she continued. "It was supposed to be, one day, not scandal." He answered softly, "You think this is about a name? It's about legacy, image. I don't belong in your world." A pause. "I don't want a world you're not in," he said. The next morning, Lucas entered the boardroom, sleek suits, sharp eyes, waiting. He stood at the head of the table, not sitting. Before anyone could speak, he did. "You've seen the article," he began. "Let's make this simple." He met their eyes. "The woman is Isla. She accompanied me to my grandmother's birthday. Yes, it started as a favor. No, she was not hired. And if she had been, she gave the money back." A ripple moved through the room. "But more than that," Lucas continued, "she made my grandmother laugh. She brought joy, and for once, someone didn't want anything from me, except, maybe, honesty. He stepped back. If you want a CEO who chooses based on pedigree, find someone else. I choose the woman who made my grandmother smile. That's the legacy I want. Silence followed. No challenge came. Later that day, Lucas returned to his townhouse. The garden had been gently decorated with fairy lights, folding chairs, and trays of pastries. No grandeur, just peace. Guests were few. Martha, in a shawl on the porch swing. 2 neighborhood kids, chasing each other across the lawn. And Lucas, kneeling by a grill, flipping cinnamon rolls on a cast-iron pan. When Isla arrived, she paused at the gate. She saw Lucas, apron tied, flour on his cheek, laughing as the little girl from the party showered sprinkles over the pastries. Chaos and joy. She stepped inside. Lucas looked up. Their eyes met. No words. He simply handed her a plate. She joined him at the grill. No explanations, just shared warmth. On the porch, Martha sipped tea and watched with a quiet smile. The scandal faded. The truth, kindness, connection, and love was right there in the garden. Simple, real. The sun poured down gently over the small courtyard of the newly completed community center. Colorful streamers danced in the breeze, laughter of children echoed against the fresh-painted walls, and rows of chairs lined the outdoor lawn, filled with neighbors, volunteers, and a few familiar faces. Above the entrance hung a simple wooden plaque, the Martha Foundation, a place to begin again. A year had passed since that one improbable birthday party. In that time, Lucas and Isla had quietly worked side by side to build something lasting, not just for themselves, but for others. They'd used Lucas's resources and Isla's vision to create a space for children, families, and elders, a center offering meals, classes, medical checkups, and moments of joy. At the front of the crowd, in a deep blue shawl and pearl earrings, sat Martha in a wheelchair. Age had softened her frame, but her eyes sparkled with their usual sharpness. Lucas stepped forward and bent beside her. "Ready, Grandma?" She patted his hand. "I've waited 76 years for a pair of scissors this important." A small round of laughter. Lucas handed her the ribbon-cutting shears. With a strong, sure snip, the red ribbon fluttered to the ground. Applause broke out. Photographers captured the moment, but Lucas barely noticed. His eyes searched for one person. Isla stood by the steps, her blonde hair pinned up simply, wearing a soft yellow dress. A dozen children clung to her skirt, some holding handmade signs that said, "Thank you, Isla," and "We love this place." Lucas walked toward her. The crowd quieted, sensing something else was about to happen. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. No grand speech, no stage, no kneeling. Just Lucas, in the place they'd built together, speaking low enough for only her to hear. "This is where I found you, and where I found myself again. I don't need a perfect life. I just need one with you in it." He opened the box. A simple ring, with a single, delicate diamond nestled in a band of gold. Isla's breath caught. She didn't cry, didn't gasp. She smiled, full and steady, and nodded. "Yes," she said. "Yes, 1,000 times." Lucas slipped the ring onto her finger. The children cheered. Someone clapped too loudly. Martha wiped at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. As the music picked up again and the celebration resumed, Isla leaned into Lucas's ear and whispered, "Thank you for choosing me, not for what I looked like or for what I lacked, but for what I am." Lucas turned to kiss her temple. "I didn't choose you for what you are," he said softly. "I chose you for who you are." And around them, their new family, of blood and of heart, danced into the golden afternoon. If this story of unexpected love, quiet courage, and choosing with the heart moved you, imagine what more is waiting. Here's $500. Will you pretend to be my date for a day? Wasn't just a question. It was the beginning of something real. If you believe in the magic of simple kindness, deep connection, and love, found in the most surprising places, subscribe to Kindness and Love Tales. New stories every week to warm your heart and stir your soul. Don't miss what comes next. Hit that subscribe button and share the love.